Hey, so I wanted to play Skyblock for 1.13, but Skyblock is only updated to 1.12 right now. It is currently in version 3.07. It was recently updated, or it was most recently updated by the user Astavie from Minecraft forum. Astavie. It's not an official version 3, but it's still pretty cool. It has like 8 other islands, all the new farming stuff for all the stuff that came out after the full release. Advancements that don't seem to work in this version. Oh yeah, and you can also zombies also drop gravel, and husks drop sand, and a lot of like a few little things like that, which makes not only gravel and sand renewable, but you also get renewable dirt, because you can turn gravel and dirt into coarse dirt and till the coarse dirt. So you get basically 4 dirt out of 2 gravel and 2 dirt. So that lets you get infinite dirt, which is pretty cool. This one has access to the end, nether fortress, potions, that sort of thing. So I sort of wanted to update it to 1.13 myself. It seems pretty straightforward. And I wanted to record it, I guess, so that other people know how to do this, because I think it's a good thing to know how to do. So right here, I have in my saves folder a new version of Skyblock 3.07 that has not been previously touched. Is currently version 1.12, pre-release 2 or something. And I just sort of wanted to run you through the folder structure really quick. This data folder is pretty important. 1.13 actually uses a different folder schema, so we're going to have to change that around. But this data folder holds advancements, which many of which are custom. So, for example, if I go to Advancements, Skyblock, Collector, it has an advancement for getting an arrow, or maybe getting multiple arrows. 64 arrows. The advanced mill trigger is custom, so I definitely want to update those. Functions. This is a function that is on loop, meaning it's a command that runs every tick. And basically what it does is it detects whether or not you're in the end, and if you're in the end, it sets the world border to basically 30 million, which is the default, and if you're not in the end, it sets the border to 2032. I'm not entirely sure why he wanted to have a limited border in the overworld and the nether, probably due to some sort of spawning mechanic. Maybe he loaded those chunks maybe he loaded those chunks manually, so he had to prevent players from going too far. But we're going to keep all this stuff. We have to update this one function, which should be pretty easy. Loot tables. This tells zombies to drop gravel. I think it's zombies, gravel, husk, sand, blazes, wither skeleton, soul sand, blazes, netherrack maybe? No, it was quartz. Yeah, definitely quartz. Which also lets you get stuff like andesite, diorite, and you can craft, for instance, diorite. You can craft andesite with quartz and stone, I'm pretty sure. A couple other things. So these 4 things let you do a lot more than you could before, so we're going to update those. So on the to-do list is update these 3 things. Fortress.dat, scoreboard, maybe not the scoreboard, but definitely fortress, villages. They will update automatically with new versions. Basically what this does is it tells the game where the nether fortresses are for purposes of spawning blazes, and where the villages are. And it it basically stores all the locations of the nether fortresses you have generated in this file. It will roll over automatically, I believe. There is a nether fortress in this game. So yeah, there's that stuff to do. This stuff... I'm not entirely sure what this stuff does. I think it's where chunks are saved, where every block is saved. Maybe one of them does blocks and one of them does entities. I'm not so sure. This is just the icon, the thing that shows up here. That's the icon now. If I can level, I forget what this does, but I don't need to change it. This might store chunk data too. Session.lock, definitely don't want to change. You can get really bad errors if you change that. Resources, there's only one thing that's in the resource pack. The MC meta file, I believe, is the same, and it is the lang file, which, what I gather, basically a language file pairs certain variables to certain names. So, for example, if you have a stone sword, the stone sword will have a variable name in the code. It will be like a stone underscore sword or something, or sword underscore stone. The lang file, what that does is it goes, okay, when I see that variable, I'm going to give it this name, which is stone sword. And so if I want to change the language to like Spanish or something, the variable name will be the same, so none of the code needs to be, you don't have to run through the code and modify everything in there, but by changing this file here, the language will be the same. I am not sure at the moment if I need to update any of this, but I'll check, definitely. One more thing, actually. The first thing I noticed is, if I were to take this new map and run it in 1.13.2 immediately, there would be this weird loading error around, like, basically a ring around the center island where the 8 other islands are, which what looks like terrain that the game generates that it's not supposed to generate because it's all supposed to be empty. So it gives a weird error. So what I have to do is I have to enter this world in 1.12, load everything in that problematic area manually, and when it rolls over to 1.13, it'll be fine. So that's what I'm going to do first. Okay, so I'm in Skyblock right now. Right now I can see 4 of the 8 islands. 1, 2, 3, 4. The others are in the corners, but they're too far away for me to see right now. I'm just going to fly over to each one of those islands and basically run around in a ring and load whatever needs to be loaded. As you can see, the advancements don't work for some reason. I'll have to take a look at that. Maybe they changed between the pre-release and 1.12.2 at some point. So I'll have to change that. If I look at... first I need to enable cheats. If I look at the command block output... right now what you see is the function running, the function that sets the world border. It's basically running over and over again on a loop. Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna fly to each one of these places. Okay, I've been around to each of these islands, and loaded all the chunks there, so everything should be fine when I roll over to 1.13. Let's test that out now. And just so you know, when as soon as I loaded the world, it created a few folders. The advancements folder, this gives the information of whether or not a player has completed certain advancements, specifically the person on single player, the person who owns the world on their computer. If it's open to LAN, there's some other process. Player data, which gives data related to the player. If I open it up, this is my UUID, a hexadecimal number. So right now, this is my player. If another player joins, there will be another list here, and they'll give player-related information related to them. This basically just my items that I had on me, stuff like that. Stats, which give player statistics, also have a player tag, and that's it. So let's load up 1.13. And yeah, no random chunk errors. What would happen is you'd basically see this big wall of newly generated terrain out in the horizon. That's not good, because you don't want to be staring at all the terrain you could go to if you're playing Skyblock. So yeah, everything should seem to be fine here, but if we turn on command block output again, I have to open it to LAN again. You can see there's no more stuff invading my text space. So the function is not being run anymore. So we have to, and that's because the syntax changed from 1.12 to 1.13. So we're gonna have to update all of that. We're gonna keep this open, and I guess we can do that function first, just to get it out of the way. Oh no, I should have kept the world open. That doesn't matter. Okay, so I have open here the wiki for functions, which is what we're updating right now. Which you know is good, because I tend to forget some of these things. There are a lot of details, and it's difficult because you need to make something tested. If that doesn't work, you need to edit it, then test it again. And it's not really clear always what you did wrong. It's pretty complicated. So, if you noticed, when we loaded it up in 1.13, a new folder appeared called Data Packs. And right now it should be empty. I'm pretty sure it is empty. Data Packs is basically a new updated version of what the data folder used to contain, which I guess it must have put stuff in this folder 1.13 too. I'm not entirely sure what all this is about, but what we need to do is we need to make a data pack, which is basically a collection of custom, and it is in this format. So right now we're in the saves folder. We need to go into data pack, and we need to choose the name. It actually takes my computer a lot to run this website for some reason, and we're going to name it Skyblock, because that's what the other guy named it. That's what Astavie named it. Data pack name. Now a new folder with data, and for data I can actually copy. I'll actually just copy the data folder and put it inside the pack. Okay, so the data folder is now inside the pack. And it's actually got all the stuff we... Oh no, I need to put a namespace in. Okay, I need to put a namespace in, and it's basically just... It's a partition to separate... It's basically just a partition to separate its own name, the stuff you make, from the stuff Minecraft has. So, Minecraft itself has data-related stuff, and you can use a data pack to upgrade Minecraft stuff, update Minecraft stuff. If I ever needed to do that, I'd just put a new folder in here called Minecraft, and that would be a namespace. But I put Skyblock in because all this is going to be custom. I don't need these anymore. And now, within namespace is going to go functions, but also advancements and load tables are going to go inside as well. Okay. And so now we have functions. This folder's extraneous now. So we're going to put everything outside the folder. And this is on loop, and I don't remember if having something named loop will make it loop anymore. I'll look into that later, but we're just going to change the syntax of the function for now. So if I open this up, it's called an MC function file. Every function in the game has to have I forget what you call it. After the dot needs to be MC function. If it's not, the game will not recognize it as relevant, and it won't run it. So I can open this up right now. I'm going to open with Notepad++. Okay, so I have everything here opened up in Notepad++, and if I open it in regular Notepad, I guess I can't anymore, but if I were to open it in a regular Notepad, all the enter characters would be gone. I think that's, so it would look like, everything would look like this. It would all look like on one line. I think that is a result of the compression algorithm that the WinZip uses when it compresses your stuff into a folder, but I'm not sure. So, right now, scoreboard looks good. Scoreboard looks good here too. I'm pretty sure you're still allowed to do that with scoreboard. We'll check it out in a sec. Execute needs to be different. The execute command changed before. Let me just explain what this code does. So, what happens is every player has assigned to them a scoreboard. Has assigned to them a certain variable. This variable is called end. And what this does is it basically detects whether the player is in the end or not, and if the player is in the end, the scoreboard value will be 1. If not, the scoreboard value will be 0. What happens then is these two lines will only be executed if the score reads 1, or more specifically, if it's a minimum of 1, but it can only be 0 or 1. So, basically, if this end value is 1, it will run these, or it will run this. It will run this if it is 0. So if it's 1, it will world border set 30 million. So it'll set the world border to a 30 million size. If it's 0, it'll set it to 2,000 something. So we need to update this. I believe all I need to do is execute as run. And that's the only syntax that changed. And so now it ought to work if I start up the game. If not, I will do something else. Okay, so I'm in 1.13 again. And the output is on, and you can still see the function is not running in loop, because we're not being spammed with a bunch of output like we were before. So that means that it is not. We can't just call it loop.mc function anymore. We have to do something else in order for the game to run it over and over again on a tick. So we'll do that, but let's just see if our function exists. And so the syntax for the slash function, then you need your namespace, which is skyblock, skyblock colon loop. And it can't find the function. This can mean one of two things. It can mean that either our folder scheme is wrong, so the game can literally not find the file, or it means that there is a syntax error in the file itself. So we're going to see which one of those two it is. Okay, I remembered what was wrong. We forgot to put in an MC meta file. And what that is if you remember when we looked at the resource pack, if I can actually get out the big bat there without lagging, if we looked at the resource pack, there was this file called pack.mcmeta, and this tells the game meta information. It also tells the game that this actually is a pack. It's sort of an identifier for the pack. I'm not going to try to explain it. So basically, what we need to do is we need to put a file in this Skyblock section. I believe it's in the Skyblock, not in the data. Okay, so we're gonna make a new folder, a new file, and we need to save it inside the first Skyblock with this data file. Called it pack. It needs the MC meta extension. That's what it's called. These are called extensions. So basically, all I need to do is copy and paste this. This is in a format which is called JSON. I'm not going to try to explain what that is, but that's what this code looks like. This is basically the version number. We're going to call it 3.1 because that I think is fitting, because this is going to be sort of Skyblock 3.1. And we're going to call the description Skyblock data pack, capital letters, just cause. And that should fix everything, but we'll see. Okay, I did have to make a small change. This had to be 3, not 3.1, because it can only take integer values. But now, if I run function, it'll autofill me with possible functions I can run. So that's a good sign. That means it sees my function folder, and it's ready to execute things. So it will run the test file, which basically execute high, but it doesn't seem like it wants to run the loop function. So there is still an error in there somewhere. Okay, so right now we're going to make it so that the function runs on loop, so that it runs every tick. So to do that, what we need to do is we need to make a new file. Okay, so we need to make a new file and save it. And we're not going to save it in the Skyblock namespace. We're going to save it in the Minecraft namespace. And this will make it so that when Minecraft runs the tick tag, every function that is tagged with that tag will run. So we're going to call this tick. And this will override the previous file called Minecraft tick in the default data pack, if you want to call it that. And the format, I'm just going to do this and load it until I get it. It might take a few tries because I've never done this particular thing before. Okay, the format looks like this. If you saw me accidentally save this as a text file, and so when I first ran this, the machine didn't understand it, so this needs to be tagged with a .json. And this is the syntax. This basically means, no, we're not going to replace the tags given by previous data packs, if there are any previous data packs. And this says, okay, we're going to take the loop function and tag it with this new tag that we call tick. And Minecraft will look for a tag with that specific name, tick, and it will run it every tick. And let's actually change the name of this. It doesn't need to be called loop anymore, so I called it border instead. A little more specific. It stands for world border. And this pi was just my debug. Let's just make sure it still works after I reload, even though I changed the name. Yeah. Cool. Let's get rid of that. And yeah, so now everything with that function is working as it should be. Cool stuff. I got something wrong. I think the dimensions are actually nether -1, overworld 0, sky 1. I hope this doesn't get confusing after I change that so many times. Okay, next we're going to do loot tables. Loot tables are basically lists of drops that mobs will drop upon death. And the loot tables are used in this map to drop gravel and sand and such, which they don't usually drop. So we actually want to put loot tables into the Minecraft namespace because we're going to change stuff. Basically, if you want to make new stuff, it's in the custom namespace. If you want to change old stuff, it is in the Minecraft namespace. So we're going to put it there. We don't need that anymore. We don't need this namespace anymore because it's different. Okay, and entities mean stuff like zombies, wither skeletons, stuff like that. And yeah, let's open that up. Let's do zombie. Okay, and this is the loot table. I'm going to run through it and make sure, see whether it is the same as it was before. Okay, I ran some tests with a bunch of zombies in a killing chamber, and it turns out that this file format is exactly what it needed to be already. And it drops rotten flesh, gravel, potatoes, and I can only assume it also drops carrots and iron ingots like it's supposed to. I should also make sure to set the hard. Yeah, it spawns armored guys, that's what I. And I hope the armor guys drop armor. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, I got some armor and a sword in here, so that looks like it's working as intended, so that's awesome. Okay, I will, actually, I don't need to do anything. All the files are done, right? Yeah, that ought to work out. I'll test it with the other mobs off camera, but basically what this does is it says, I won't go into too much detail, but it says, let's say for rotten flesh, the stuff from here to here accounts for the item rotten flesh and determining whether it needs to drop. It basically says, okay, the item is going to be rotten flesh, weight of 1, and what it does is says, okay, it can drop a minimum of 0 and a maximum of 2. And it gives you more if you have a looting enchantment on your sword. Okay, and this one from here to here is for ironing as carrots and potatoes, which will have a small chance, a slightly bigger chance if you have looting, and it will drop an ironing, a carrot, or potato. Does the same for gravel and the same for... it looks like it's a half a chance to get gravel or so. So yeah. Okay, the loot tables are working as intended. There was just one little problem with the wither skeletons, and that is the name, variable name skull was changed to wither skeleton skull. I just had to change that, and that was it. Now everything is working as intended. Things drop they should. And now on to advancements. Next up we have advancements. The advancement data was originally kept in this data folder, advancements, and again, we don't need these namespace folders anymore, so let's copy and paste everything into the new data packs folder. Now, what these two folders are is, the second folder contains all the custom advancements. It's divided into some 4 different categories, and for instance, if we go to collector, it goes arrow.json, and this one requires you to collect 64 arrows and you get an advancement. So they're the custom ones. There's also this Minecraft namespace, and basically I looked through these, and basically all that these are they disable all the default advancements so that they don't show up. So we're gonna put both of these in, and the hope is that when we change the folder schema, just like the loot tables, everything will end up exactly as it should be, just like it did. So yeah, let's do Skyblock first. Let's copy and paste everything in here into data packs, Skyblock, advancement. Okay. Now the hope is that everything should be fine. Okay, so I did not get an advancement for picking up 64 arrows. Let's do this one first. This is the root one. This is the first advancement you're supposed to get, which is get 1 dirt block. The first thing I noticed with this is that we don't want this anymore. This data thing referenced something called a data value, which is been deprecated. So we don't need that anymore. Log might be different. Okay, so we need a dirt and a log to get this advancement. Okay, the idea is oak wood now, so I'm gonna change that. So that might fix things. Okay. We got an advancement. Let's go. Looks like the laying file is going to need to be edited, because the name of this achievement is not what we want it to be, but at least we got the advancement. So First thing I'm going to do is go through every single one of these advancements to make sure that they're working correctly, and see after that. And also the texture files are messed up. This is supposed to have like a white background, so I'll fix that. Alright, so I went through every single advancement and changed stuff. Most of it was just syntax changes that were needed to make them work. And it took a little while, but it wasn't too hard. So I got every single advancement except for this one, which is to find an end city. There were 3 problems I noticed while making this. One is right there. This is a bunch of chunks that are loading off in the distance for some reason. That's very problematic, so what I might do is just... I either have to recreate the map, so make the map again, build all the islands, which is not hard to do because there's a copy and paste feature now called structure blocks that help you make changes, make just straight one-to-one copy-paste edits. I could try to just manually get rid of this, but I think it's better just to reload everything. Second problem, when I killed the Ender Dragon, it did not leave an egg on top of the portal. My guess is that the map maker before me was testing out the Ender Dragon, already killed the Ender Dragon, and the dragon only drops the egg the first time you kill it. No times after that. I think it drops the head multiple times, but it doesn't drop the egg multiple times, so there's that. There's also, when I went to the end, all the end cities were missing. I couldn't find one anywhere, which my guess is that for some reason, as those were being loaded, because of new loading in 1.13 or something like that, they wouldn't load. So that's something else I might need to... another reason to just recreate everything from scratch, which isn't too difficult, to be honest. First, we're gonna take a look at the resource pack. Okay, I've never done a resource language pack file thing before. So there are only 2 files associated with this. One of them is the MC meta file, which contains metadata, and the other one is the actual language file itself, which I extracted from the resource pack. My guess is that... So I see the pack format in the description. Looks fine. My guess is that I'll need to add these language indicators. And there's also a problem in the lang. The lang is not in the JSON format. Like, there would need to be quotes around this. Like, it would need to look like this, basically. All of them would need to look like this, and so yeah, I'm gonna change that and see what happens. Just for testing purposes, I'm gonna temporarily get rid of every one of them except for this one. So let's hit a Control X and change it around to the format I think it should be. Alright, and I'll need to copy and paste that back into the resource pack, which could get kind of annoying. Okay, I do need these. Thought I could go without them for a little while, but I need them. Let's try that. Okay, it does notice my... Why do I still have this? I'll delete it later. I still have this, it sees my pack. The red might mean there's an error in it. I don't know. Okay, this needs to be a 4. 4 for 1.13. Okay, it's not red anymore. Still nothing. So it turns out, the only thing I was missing, aside from changing the format, was that this ENUS was supposed to be a .json rather than a .lang. Everything, I guess, updated to the JSON format, so it has a .json tag. Yeah, so right now it's only changing one thing, Skyblock, begin your Skyblock adventure, and if we open the world, it says Skyblock, like it's supposed to. Skyblock, this was my testing. It's not supposed to stay stone. I was using that for testing purposes, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to go through all these advancements, or I'm going to reformat the original lang file, change the .lang to a .json, and I'll be right back. Okay, the lang file has been updated. This is what it looks like now. And yeah, and if we go to advancements, it's got half of this is base game stuff that I will have to get rid of, but if we scroll over this, we have nice text showing up instead of random dots everywhere. And we are going to copy these override advancements here. Okay, so now when you reload, they should be gone. There we go. Nice. So now it's just the base stuff, and I can just for clarification, the whether or not I've completed the advancement is stored in an entirely separate file. I can remove all of my advancement data by going to this folder here and deleting this file. So now when I actually, it might have loaded in. I might have to relog to update this. I probably will, but when I relog, all the data will be gone. Okay, so it took a while and a few different attempts, but I eventually figured out how to update the world from 1.12 to 1.13 so that we wouldn't get those land generation bugs. The way I did it is like this, and it's pretty complicated, so I'll try to explain it the best I can. First of all, we have something here. It's a world that I named Void, and basically what it is if you create a new world, it's basically just a super flat world. When you first generate a super flat world, usually it's a layer of grass, followed by 2 layers of dirt, followed by a layer of bedrock. You can generate a super flat world that is basically entirely empty. Which is basically generated with 1 layer of air. And that'll be it. And then it'll just generate empty, because obviously anything that, any layer that you don't specify will just be air. So everything that generates in this world is just going to be air. Yeah, so if I say use preset, you'll see the world will generate with a layer of air. And I have to go back to here because it will auto-spawn villages. You need some sort of generated structure. So we'll just say fortress for now. This will generate nether fortresses, but it doesn't matter because we don't really care about the nether for reasons I won't get into. But yeah, and the biome will be plains. But anyway, I'm not going to create this world. I already have one. But that basically just makes an empty world. Now, the first intuition I had was, okay, so we have this empty world. What if we stick the chunk data, the block data, from our Skyblock world, our 1.12, this is the 1.12 Skyblock world. This is a 1.13 Skyblock world that's just been rolled over directly that has a bunch of chunk errors. What if we take the chunk data from this world and copy and paste it onto the void, so that, and the void, if the void runs into chunks that haven't been loaded, it will load them, and in loading them, it will just fill them with empty space, because that's how the void loads, as opposed to a normal world, which will load in a bunch of land chunks that we don't want. So my first intuition was to copy and paste the data from here onto here, and the way you can do that is, I looked into what these folders are. This region data is for the overworld. This dim-1, that actually says dimension -1. This is the nether data. And dim1 is dimension 1. This is the end data. So we could copy and paste this overworld region data and replace it into the void, and inject it into the void. The problem with that is a pretty critical one. It's very annoying, but super flat worlds are unable, for whatever reason, to generate end cities. And end cities are pretty crucial to... end cities are pretty crucial in this game, because in Skyblock, because that's the only way you can find diamonds. So that wouldn't work. So that means that the final world, the final template that we used, or the final base world that we used, would have to be a regular world, not a super flat world. And that was very annoying, because a regular world, if it comes to an unloaded chunk, will generate this big masses of land that you don't want in a Skyblock world. But there's actually a way we can get around that. So, Skyblock 3.07, I'm not entirely sure what the map maker did, but for some reason, it almost seems like everything in this world is loaded from, like, roughly -1000x to 1000x, and -1000z to 1000z. It's already been loaded. It's already saved in here. And this is where my knowledge of things gets a bit speculative. So don't quote me on this. But what I think happens is, for whatever reason, in this 1.12 data, there are a few chunks here and there that for some reason are not manually loaded. They aren't contained in this folder, so that if I were to roll it over to 1.13, 1.13 will recognize the chunk as not having been loaded, so it will place its generated terrain data into there, and that's what we don't want. So what we can do is first take this and copy it, and then copy and paste it into the void, into a void world. And what that will do is the void world will basically, the 1.13 void world will basically patch in whatever holes there are. If for some reason there are unloaded chunks in this data set, the void will fill up those chunks. But remember, the terrain generation of the void is just empty space, so the void will just make those chunks empty space, which is exactly what we want when it's loaded. And then what we can do is take the void, start up a new world, just regular old survival world, and copy and paste the void data into that world. This is the regular old survival world, except the void data, the patched over 1.12 Skyblock data has been moved into the region folder of here. So now, if we load it up, and I guess I'm in the Nether. And my spawn point wasn't originally here, I set it with the command. But I've basically gone out and ran around a little, and sure enough, I haven't had any problems at all with badly generating terrain. Like, I can go out this way, theoretically, until I hit, like, 1,000 blocks or something. And there won't be anything. That's what the world border, my guess, what the map maker made the world border for, was so that you wouldn't interact with, when you ended up at a certain point, like, you can only manually load a finite number of chunks. So he manually loaded them from -1,000 to 1,000, and they want to make sure you don't go past that. That's probably what the world border is for. Yeah, you can see it's, like, entirely empty. So there's that. Now, there are two more things we need to do. We need to talk about: the Nether and the End. The End loads fine, because it is on a, it's, the final template we used was a regular Minecraft world, so the End will load End cities just fine. The Nether is interesting, because, so, my originally thought would be to, copy and paste the End data, the region data, or the End region data, so the dim -1 folder, from the 1.12 world onto the 1.13 world, and everything in the End would be the same. The problem is that, for some reason, the placement of the Nether fortress is not the same. So, the game will have certain files or certain sub-files that determine what areas are Nether fortress and what areas are not Nether fortress. And that is important so that we can spawn things like blazes and wither skeletons in the right place. There's a Nether fortress in the map, and we want the game to recognize that as a Nether fortress where blazes and wither skeletons will spawn. So, and for some reason, copy and pasting from 1.12 to 1.13 will not maintain the same Nether fortress data. Even if I go to this data file here, where fortress information for certain chunks, or for certain fortresses, will be stored. Even if I copy and paste all that information, it doesn't work either. So what we need to do is, for some reason, this 1.12 Fortress data is incompatible with and cannot be directly injected into 1.13. So what we can do is first roll over the netherworld from 1.12 to 1.13. If we take this 1.12 world and load it up directly into 1.13, the 1.13 handling system will automatically update the Nether Fortress data from 1.12 to 1.13. So, and this 1.13 Nether Fortress data then can be directly copied from the dim -1 files and the Nether Fortress data files can be directly copied into here. So, basically, the overworld data sort of comes from here, and the Nether data sort of comes from here. And there are no terrain generation problems with the Nether. I don't know why that is, but there aren't any. In the end, I didn't even bother copying at all. It just stays as is. But if you have a map in 1.12, you could just directly copy the end data and everything from your original world onto the new template, and it would work perfectly fine. I will make a tutorial video on how to update your world from 1.12 to 1.13 if that's what you want to do. Okay. Yeah, I hope that made any sense at all. It's pretty intense process. And as you can see, the Nether Fortress right here, we have wither skeletons, and when you have wither skeletons, it means that this place is recognized as a fortress, and not just a random bunch of nether brick. A copy of Skyblock updated in 1.13 that could be sent out right now if I wanted to. It's basically everything I told you, except the spawn point has been reset because sometimes, you know how when you load a new world, sometimes your initial spawn coordinate is like 100 instead of 00. That's sort of what happens. So you end up spawning in wait, and that's not what you want. So I reset the spawn point. I centered the world border at the spawn point. So everything is set and ready to go. Except that's not what's going to happen. I'm going to screw some stuff up first. Okay, so you might wonder what's going on here. These are a ridiculous number of guardians attacking squids in this pillar of water. What I want to do is make an ocean monument in this area. And the way I did that is I generated an ocean monument from a different world and copied and pasted the monument.dat file into this one, and I edited the chunk position. This is where the game thinks the monument is. I edited this position to match this location right here, and also this BB, which stands for bounding box, which is a big box that contains a monument. So now the game thinks there's an ocean monument here, and so it's spawning a ton of guardians. I'm not going to have it here. This is just sort of a testing location. I'm going to have it somewhere else. And anyway, I'm going to have an ocean monument off there. The problem is, this is 1.12. It was really easy to do in 1.12 because these .dat files still existed. In 1.13, these .dat files are pretty useless. So I'm going to have to figure out a way to take this data and update it to 1.13. Alright, so I managed to place the ocean monument in the correct spot. It was a little bit complicated. But before that, first of all, I noticed that the version recreated, the 1.13 version, still had a bit of corruption in it. So what was happening was the void chunks weren't loaded like I thought they were. So I had to run across the 2000 by 2000 grid and manually load every single chunk. It didn't take very long. It was about a half hour, but once that happened, all the corruption stopped. Yeah, and that's the void world right here. And after that, I was able to have the ocean monument in the correct place in the 1.12 version. The problem is that it won't update to the void version because the super flat world, for whatever reason, doesn't recognize artificial monuments. It can only generate monuments from a seed. So we'd have to bypass, for the monument, we'd have to bypass the void step. And what I ended up doing was updating the 1.12 to 1.13 directly. And that created this series of chunks called a region that contain the monument, which I could then copy and paste to the final 1.13 version, skipping the void. The region I'm talking about is here. R00 is the location of the monument. A region is 32 chunks by 32 chunks, so it's quite large, but luckily there was no corruption in there, so we could just copy and paste it directly into the 3.1 version, and yeah, that was that. So now we have a functional 1.13 version with no corruption and an ocean monument. So now is basically just adding some finishing touches and stuff. Most of this world is untouched. I have to like set the spawn point in the world border and stuff like that. And to do that, let's see if I can switch into creative mode fast enough before I die of falling. Wait, what? Is this the copy? This is the copy, okay. Okay. Open line all cheats, ready? No chance, it didn't happen. Okay. And now I fly over, because that was the original spawn point. I do want to find 0, 0 and set the world border center there. No sticky keys. So I'm at 0, 0 and I just type world border center, and the tildes just mean over here, so this tilde means my location right now, which is 0, and this tilde also means 0. The spawn point I want to set here. If I type this, it will set my spawn point. If I type this, it will set everybody's spawn point, the default spawn point. So yeah, there's that. The nether data, the nether is already done, so I don't need to go into the nether. That was just changing around a couple of things. First order of business is add some 1.13 stuff. So here's some water with some lily pads. First thing I'm going to do okay, I want this in there. Can I put it? Oh, I can put it under the lily pad. Nice. That in there. Can do that there. that works. And I think that's all I need. Oh no, I definitely want, there's definitely something else I want. So, hide down here. I want these. Turtle eggs. And that should be that. A couple other changes I want to make. We can currently not get clay and all its subsidiaries, so clay, hardened clay, stuff like that. We can't get that yet, so I thought it would be fitting to, along with the theme of the rest of the loot tables, to make it so that drowns have a chance to drop clay, like a 50-50 chance of dropping a full clay block. And we also don't have netherrack, so I'm going to make zombie pigmen drop netherrack using loot tables. So yeah, and I think the final thing is right here. Right here is a taiga biome. Unfortunately, it does not snow here. There is snow here that has been sort of automatically placed, but during the weather it does not snow, so I have to change this from a taiga to a snowy taiga. And I have a program that allows me to change biome data. You can't do it with commands or direct world manipulation. You have to get into the data files. Okay, so now loot tables have been added so that drowns will drop clay. There you go. Pigmen will drop netherrack. Clay, netherrack. And also, when you fish, you have a very small chance of getting a heart of the sea. That is a thing used to make a conduit. You can get nautilus shells already by fishing, and sometimes drowns have them on them. But I wanted to add hearts of the sea so that there would be conduits in the map. It's very rare to get heart of the sea as I've set it up. Here's the fishing loot table. It's a loot table that overrides the treasure section of fishing, so this only includes treasure stuff like enchanted books and enchanted fishing rods and stuff like that. Every other item has a weight of 4, except for down here, Heart of the Sea has a weight of 1, so Heart of the Sea is a lot less likely to drop than any of these, basically. And we are back in the Skyblock world. This is the taiga island, and we would like to change it from a taiga to a snowy taiga. Now, you can't really change the biome of anything manually without some sort of software. And this is the software I have here. It's called NBT Explorer. It allows you to open .dat folders. It also allows you to open what will be relevant here. These region MCA folders. First we want to know the chunk. The relevant, I don't think my mouse pointer is going to show up, but the relevant number is, if you see on the F3 screen, chunk colon and then 0412. That is the number of the chunk, particularly 012. That's x equals 0, z equals 12 for chunk. So we want to find that in the MCA folder. Let's get the copy, because this is the copy world. Region, and it's region 00, because it falls within 3232. Right, yeah. 012. Okay. And then we open this, and it has biome data down here. So let's open this up. Let's go to hex view. And what's relevant here is a basically a big grid, a 16 by 16 grid corresponding to each block of the chunk, and the stuff that's labeled 5 here is taiga. So we want to change that. Let me find the ID. Okay, snowy taiga is 30. So we want to just scroll around, and everywhere we see a 5, we want to change it to 30. It's going to take a little while. So now if we look at it, it now says biome snowy taiga instead of taiga. So we've done what we wanted to do. Alright, Skyblock 3.1 has been officially completed. It is in a zip folder right here, ready to be uploaded. I fixed a couple of bugs. I added 3 new advancements. One to get a phantom membrane, one to locate the ocean monument, and one to craft and place down a conduit. So, yeah, so it's complete. I also put in, way back here, I put in a copyright claim just in case, someone gets a hold of it and wants to pretend it's their own work. I have this video to reference and this file to reference. Hidden away back in this file in a video that nobody's going to watch, so, just other than that, just ready to upload. Yeah, thanks for watching, and, see you next time. I'll be doing my own playthrough of this map, probably before anyone else does, just so I get first dibs or whatever, but yeah, cool. Thanks, bye.